Signature analysis is the forensic process of examining and comparing signatures to determine if they are unauthorized reproduction or imitation of a person's signature with intent to deceive. Let us take note of two keywords there. The first is unauthorized reproduction, unauthorized, and the second one is intent. So before you can say a signature is forged, then there must be an unauthorized reproduction. That is, the signature is reproduced without authorization, and then with intent to deceive. With intent to deceive. Let me give an instance. If because of any reason, I ask maybe my subordinate or my child, for example, to reproduce my signature in order for him to go and cash a sum of money for me from the bank, then that kind of reproduced signature is because it is with authorization, because I've authorized him to do so. Therefore, we will not term it as a forged signature. Let me digress a bit to say the difference between fake, forgery, and counterfeit. All forgeries are fakes, but not all fakes are counterfeit. Counterfeit implies deception, but fake just means it is not the real thing. However, the difference lies in the fact that not all fake documents or signature are used to deceive. Let me give an example. Monopoly money, for example, is fake, but not intended to be used as legal currency. Forgery is the process of imitating document with an intention to defraud. A person is guilty of forgery if they make a false instrument with the intention that it may be used to induce another person to accept it as genuine. So, fake, forgery, and counterfeit all mean an item is not genuine, but forgery and counterfeit implies intentional illegality. Therefore, in this course, or generally speaking, in question document examination, we normally talk about genuine or not genuine. Genuine or not genuine. So that is the correct language instead of using the word fake, because something may be fake and still not carry intentional illegality. There are different types of signature forgery. I will be mentioning about 6 of them, one after the other. Then later we go to the next thing. The first one I will mention is normal hand or blind forgery. Normal hand or blind forgery. This kind of forgery is done by a forger by just writing any signature. Not that he has a genuine or a model signature in his hand. He just writes something. Probably he has created a document in the name of somebody, or wanted to use it to steal somebody's identity and then sign on it. That kind of signature will not resemble the signature of that person that he wanted to maybe implicate, or perhaps steal his identity, or want to make it appear as if that person is the source of the document. So it will not resemble his signature. If there's any resemblance at all, it's just a coincidence. Forge and signature, you will see everything that resembles normal signature there, because it is not done with model. It will resemble any other signature. We have freehand simulation. Freehand simulation forgery. In fact, this kind of freehand simulation forgery is most common in litigation. It's most common and is the most difficult to discover. owner of the genuine signature may thought that he was the one who signed it. Maybe probably he will say probably he couldn't remember the time he signed it, because the semblance would be there too much for an unneeded eyes to detect the difference between it and the genuine one. So we are going to concentrate a lot on this freehand simulation later. Then another is tracing hand forgery. Tracing hand forgery is when a genuine signature is transferred to another document by using different means. One of these is by using a sharp object to trace a genuine signature, so that I can have a kind of impression. A pen will be used to trace it. A pen will be used to trace it. But in that kind of forgery, in that kind of hand forgery, you have a uniform line thickness. The indicators is a uniform line thickness because it is always done slowly. It's like drawing it. So you see uniform line thickness, you see retouching, because by the time they are drawing it through the indentation, you will see that they will be missing the mark once in a while, and they will be retouching it. Retouch is when you have a line that is joining a gap. And by the time you expand it or magnify such kind of signature, you can see the retouch. Next is guided hand forgery. In guided hand forgery, this one occurs when a forger physically guides the hand of the genuine writer, probably an elderly or an ill person, or somebody who is already drugged, cannot take right decision again. So the forger wants to take advantage of such kind of a situation. The condition of that person will not permit him to write the way he's supposed to write. They will now hold his hand to help you, to guide him to sign. This is different from when an elderly one or an ill person is assisting. Is seeking for assistance. He's seeking for assistance, and somebody now is assisting him. That is a different thing. Different from that one. In this case in this kind of situation, forgery is about to take place, whereas the other one is only helping the ill person or the elderly person that has shaking hand to sign. Lastly, we have what we call disguise forgery, disguise or auto forgery. Disguise or auto forgery. In this kind of forgery, the genuine owner of a signature want to disguise his own signature. Therefore, he will try to change it. One of the ways they try to do it is to change the slant. Maybe they discover their signature normally lean to the right. They want to change it to the left, or they want to make it to straight, to stand straight, and some other features. But by the time you do critical analysis on it, you can still see that some features, especially those tiny features, will still bear the resemblance of the genuine signature of the writer. Before I move to the next one, I nearly jump over auto pen signature. Auto pen signatures is a kind of auto pen signature forgery. It's a kind of forgery that is done mechanically. Using some devices. Though in some offices there may be a high volume signing in which it is not advisable for one person to be signed because of the animosity of the job. The right thing is to authorize the reproduction of signature of an officer who is in charge of the signing the document. So the signature will be on a mechanical device Forgers can also use this means to forge another person's signature and begin to use it on document. And some of the characteristics that you see on this kind of a signature is identical repetitions, lack of natural variation, and mechanical precision. Kind of signature that will come out of such a device will bear 100% resemblance to one another. Now let's consider indicators of forgery in signatures. Indicators of forgery in signatures. There are about 7 of these indicators that are very, very important. That if you're able to understand this, then we can fetch out any forged signature among other signatures. Now, let's start from the first one, tremor. Tremor. Tremor is a sign that we see on strokes or lines of a signature that make that signature to look as if the hand of the writer was shaking while writing it. Wherever you see a signature with the line, where the lines are like hairy, or as if the hand of this writer is shaking, we call it tremor. Is when the signature is tremulous. When it is tremulous, it's a very vital indicator of forgery in signatures. Another thing, that's number 2, that you can see is blunt start and blunt stop. Blunt start and blunt stop. What do I mean by blunt start and blunt stop? When you before a writer starts writing, the pen is already flying. The writing is from the brain. The writing is from the brain. Therefore, the writer will not place his pen on the paper and begin to think of what to write. See the first stroke, we have tapered beginning. And by the time it's finishing, the pen is also flying. That's why you see a tapered end. You have taper end and taper beginning. But when it is a forged signature, the writer, because he's doing more or less a drawing work, artistic work, so he places his pen on the paper, look at where he wanted to copy. After copying it, now he will lift up his pen. So because he stopped with the first place, that is touching the paper with his pen, the pen drops an ink, drops ink. Then by the time he finishes, he look at the place where he was copying from before he now raise his pen. That one also will make it to have a drop of pen. So this will make the beginning to be thick and the ending to be thick. That is, it won't have tapered beginning and tapered ending. So you have blunt start and blunt stop. Then another thing you look at is the pen, whether it has pen lifts or hesitation. Pen lift is the gap on a straight line where there's not supposed to be a gap. For example, when you have curve, those areas where you have curve in letter formation of any signature, those curve, they're supposed to move freely and flow freely. So, but when you have gaps, that it shows that the writer, the forger, was hesitating whether to move forward or to stop, or at times they want to look at what they are doing and where they are copying from. So in doing so, they lift up their pen. As they lift up their pen, they look at it and now want to face where they were copying to. Now they put the pen back. So they start writing. So during the process of lifting up the pen and putting up the pen down, there might have been a gap that ordinary eyes may not be able to see. unless it is magnified, unless the signature is magnified. So it will now leave the gap on the on that line, that curve. So where there's not supposed to be gap, you see gap there because the pen was lifted then. So we call it pen lift. Now another thing is patching. Patching is when a forger, after I discover that there's a gap between there's a gap where there's not supposed to be gap, is now putting or trying to close up with a line, and that line will not fit 100% or not fit where it's supposed to fit. We just we close the gap, but by the time you look at it under the microscope, you can see that there are two different lines, even though the same pen, but two different lines that make up the line. Now another thing is blobs. Blobs is a drop of ink that is too tiny for ordinary eyes to discover. Strokes of signature, the blobs will appear where blobs are not to appear. At times you may see blobs in some places in signature, but there are places that you are not supposed to see blob, especially where you have cough, where you have cough, where you have cough, or on a straight line, then in some places where the writer will normally make a kind of U-turn, a kind of turn. In that place is a place of taking decision. The forger will like to look at the place where it's copying from, the model where it's copying from, because he doesn't want to make a mistake. So why doing so? He slow down. Because he slow down, his ink drop. So that drop of ink is what we call blob. So the blob will appear where they are not supposed to appear. Then another thing is speed and pressure. Wherever you are signing any document, because of the fact that it's from your brain, it's what you have done several times. You are not just using the muscle of your hand, but you are using the muscle from your brain. So your brain is dictating or controlling your hands or what to do. So you are not thinking on how to do it. So your speed varies. You are written with speed. So the speed varies because of this reason. When you are anytime you are pushing the pen on the paper away from you, the speed is slower, and therefore you have a fewer ink drop on the paper, which means your line will be thinner. But when you are drawing towards yourself, that is, we call it downstroke. When you're having downstroke, you are going to have more pressure, and that pressure will make the ink to drop more ink. Then the stroke or the line will be thicker. So in that case, when you have upstroke, you have thinner line, and when you have downstroke, you have thicker line. So that is how it will be all through the signature. You have very thickness, but when the forger is forging the signature, it will be, because of the fact that it's drawing from somebody, he can't write speedily. Therefore, he will have a kind of the same speed, and the same speed is having will make it to have the same pressure, and that same pressure that is having will make it to have the same thickness, almost the same thickness, this thickness all through. So then this will be very visible when you enlarge it under the microscope, or when you enlarge it when you use some other means to magnify it. Then lastly, the slant. Every signature, every writer will have slant. And what is slant? Slant is the direction in which what you write leans, either to the right, to the left, or maybe standing straight. So the same thing with your signature. Your signature will either lean to the right or to the left. This one also can be calculated. How do you calculate this slant? the first thing is to establish a baseline. Establish the baseline. How do we do that? We draw a line touching the bottom of most letters, but we have to ignore descendants like a G, Y, J. Then step 2, we pick measurement letters. We just pick some letters out of the signature. We know that in some signature we may not have more than 3. That means you can use all the letters, but you have as much as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the letters in the signature. You just pick like 3, between 3 to 5 is okay, or 3 to 4 letters. You pick it. Then what are those letters that you need to pick? They are letters with clear vertical stroke, like L, like T, like D. Those letters, they have clear vertical stroke, like H, B, F, and so on and so forth. But you have to avoid O, letter O, or 0, letter C or S. All this one, because they have loop, or they have curves. So you have to avoid them because they don't have clear vertical stroke. Now, the next step, which is step 3, is to draw axis line. For each letter that you choose, that you pick to be used, you draw a line through the center of the main downstroke, from top to bottom. Then you go to the next step, which is you measure angle. That is step 4. So measure angle by placing protractor center at intersection of baseline and axis line. So in that place, you read angle from 90-degree vertical. For example, look at my screen. If axis line is 35-degree mark, then slant is equal to 90-degree minus 35-degree, which is equal to 15-degree, and that is going to be right slant, because it is from 0 to 90-degree. From 0-degree to 90-degree is positive. That means it is to the right. But when you have something like a minus, you have something like a minus 0 to 90. That is to the left. So in that case, what you have is to the left. If it is minus 0, minus 1, 2, 3, up to 90-degree, that is to the left. So you go to the next step, which is step 5. So you have to average it, because you might have done it for letter 1, for the first letter, second letter, and third letter. We said you can use between 3 to 4 letters. That means you can, if you pick 3 letters or 4 letters, you do it for each of the letter. Then you add them together before you divide it by the number. That is, for example, if you measure 4 letters, for example, and you have 12-degree, you have 15-degree, you have 14-degree, and 17-degree. You have to add the whole thing together and divide by 4. That is average slant. So you round it off to 15-degree. So because the answer is 14.5 degrees, so you round it to 15-degree. So that is how to calculate it. Slant is equal to angle of letters from vertical, measure with protractor on 3 to 5 downstrokes. Slant is equal to angle of letters from vertical, measure with protractor on 3 to 4 or 5 downstroke, then average it. So genuine is consistent range. Genuine is equal to consistent range of plus or minus 5 degree. That is, if you have like a 4, you have like a 4 letters or 3 letters, and you have something like a 12-degree, 15-degree, 14-degree, you still have consistent range, and that one is still okay. That is a genuine writer. But when you have something like a 12-degree in a letter, another letter you have like a we have like a 70 degree, then that is inconsistent. So then when you have a range that is outside the range, when you have a number that is outside the range, like for example, in the genuine written, in the no sample, you have 14, 15, 16. Then in the disputed, now you are having like something like a 70 degree or 80 degree. That is out of range. That is a sign of forgery. Then when you have any number that tends to word negative, that is a left hand, and the no sample is towards the right, then that is a very strong indicator of forgery. Examination methodology. A systematic approach is essential in signature analysis. There are about 3 steps that we're supposed to take while examining question signature. The first step is preliminary examination. Preliminary examination. So under this, you do visual inspection. Visual inspection using unaided and also magnified equipment. Okay, I said the first step is preliminary examination. Under this, you use visual inspection, that is, you use your eye to look at this. Your eyes will look at the disputed signature. So the first step is preliminary examination. Under preliminary examination, you use visual inspection. That is, you look at it with your eyes, firstly with unaided eyes. Then later, you take it to magnification device. When you are looking at it with ordinary eyes, you take note of some things like the obvious defect or inconsistencies that you may have in the disputed signature. So the second step is collection of standards. Collection of standards. If you look at your screen, we have a disputed signature. Then we have standards. Standard signature, that is the one we call no signature. The no signature is known as standard or exemplars. Please, I want you to go back to the last module. You see this, these are well explained there. Now, you collect about 9, at least between 8 and 9 signatures. At least 8 to 9 signatures from different dates. For example, maybe the one that they are the alleged writer or the known writer sent to banks. For example, the one is sent for one application or the other in one company. The one is used for birthday greeting to somebody, and all those from different document and different time. But because of the fact that when you are collecting this standard, it must be from contemporary time. That is the one that was written at a time similar to the time when the examination is to be conducted. The third step is comparative analysis. Comparative analysis. After you might have collected the standard signatures and take note of all the feature that he has. For example, you take note of the slant, the formation of those letters. You take note of this, the space, the average space that he used to give between a letter and the other. You take note of all those things. Then now the next thing is comparative analysis. And there are some things that there are some features that you need to evaluate. So as I was saying, the third step is comparative analysis. And there are some features that you need to examine. For example, the first feature that we discuss is line quality. If you look at your screen, you can see the lines of the disputed signature is tremulous. That is, it has tremor. Just as I told us the other time that a tremor means lines that is somehow hairy, or that is it seems as be facing while collecting standard specimens. So standard specimen collection issues. Standard specimen collection issues. So the challenges may be insufficient samples. When you have too few signatures, you may be your report may be challenged at the court. If you have too little samples, it may be challenged. Then, if there is lack of contemporaneity, that is, if what you collected is far from the time in question. Let me try to explain that. If a man wrote or made his will around between while he was in his 70s, he made his will in his 70s and signed it while he was in 70s. But after his demise, and there is an issue on his will, if his will is being disputed, as a question document examiner, if you collect as standard the known samples of the man that were on question on documents that were created around the time while he was in his 30s, that one may not be good enough, and it may be challenged because as we age, our signature changes, and that one may make your work, your report to be challenged at the court. Another one is photocopies instead of originals. If you collect photocopies, it must be stated inside your report, especially when the photocopy is not clean. It's not clean and clear. I said we have two types of specimen, or two types of samples that we can collect. You may refer to the former module, but let me try to repeat myself. There are two types. The first one is requested. Requested sample are those samples that you collect from the alleged writer or the suspect. So in that case, there are method of collecting it. Please refer to the former module. Now, if you are requesting sample from a suspect or from alleged writer, you need to collect more sample, and at the same time you have to supervise it. You have to supervise the collection. If it is not supervised, then it may be challenged. It may be challenged at the court. The collected sample are natural occurring. That one is better. The one that maybe that in the archive. That one is, the one that he has written when he didn't even know that something may happen. So, a lot of challenges. So let's talk about legal challenges in signature dispute. Legal challenges in signature dispute. The first one is admissibility of expert evidence. At times, there may be reasons why the expert evidence may not be admissible. The first thing is that if he cannot establish that he has undergone training, that is an expert, that he has undergone training, then maybe a documented training under a trained question document examiner, under an expert, or in an institution. He must be able to show that he has undergone training or that he has done some kind of a job before. So the expert must be able to establish that he's an expert before the court will admit his evidence. Then there are a lot of other things that goes along with that one, but later we'll discuss that one in full. Then another challenge that he may be having is burden of proof. Burden of proof. The probability of you being cross-examined is high. The expert may be cross-examined. So in fact, if you don't know the type of question that they may ask from you, you may get to the place you do your work, you did your work very well, the examination is fantastic, the report is okay. After cross-examination, all your testimony may be reduced to nothing. So cross-examination of expert, that one is highly important. As an expert, you must know the kind of question that is likely to be asked from you by the opposing attorney. The practical consideration in signature analysis. Number one, always work with original documents where possible. Number two, avoid confirmation bias. The fact they have told you, those who gave you work has told you that the person embezzle money, and there's an evidence that he embezzle money, does not mean that what the signature they gave to you is forged. So that is confirmation bias. When you had something and you are working towards the information that you have that had been given to you. Then you have to maintain chain of custody, how the document got to you and how you send it back to after working on it, how you send it back to the people that give it to you matters a lot. So you must document and maintain chain of custody. So every observation must be documented clearly. Then it's always good to use multiple comparison standard. For example, you use your eyes. You use your eyes manually to compare the two. Then you use a magnifying lens. Then you also use your eyes. I mean, you can also use the screen. Use your system, scan it inside and look at it. Then in some cases, you may also need to use microscope or use some other method. You have to avoid overstatement, like saying that I'm 100% sure that this signature is forged. That is overstatement. In science, there's no way you get 100% like that. It may be 99%. Even when you are do comparison analysis in DNA, you can only get something like 99.9, not 100%. So that's you must avoid the overstatement. Conclusion: signature analysis is both an art and science, requiring careful observation, scientific methodology, and professional judgment. So no single feature determines authenticity. The conclusion must be based on the totality of evidence. This is where I'm going to stop this afternoon. Thank you very much. God bless you. Till next time.